maybe it's a little bit of a roundup or a way of tying things up might be helpful. Just
Please take care of your quacks.
Hey, Andreas.
hey.
Oh, excellent. You timed that excellently.
Then he jumped.
Almost quack there.
You gotta need to do a good entrance.
How's about the confetti whisperer?
The confetti whisperer.
Confetti
sounds dirty.
There he is.
Andreas is like the confetti whisperer.
Yay, it works. Okay. I was having some problems with Chrome again. Switched to Brave, the free operating browser. Feel much better. How are you guys doing?
We're doing greater now that you're here.
Are we all being well together?
Yeah.
That's super great.
He will.
Nathan looking beautiful on a sunny day.
Hey, sugar. Oh, it's gorgeous out here. Really is.
I'm glad to see your beautiful face, your beard, and your hair is just solemn. It's a Samsonic right now. It's amazing.
I feel like the only way that I look good with my haircut is the double bun, which I'll show you guys one day.
Gage Deers is really cool too, though.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah,
classical.
I rock the double bun like a prized war horse. I guess that's
that's a good description of you, actually.
Like a Tartarian horse.
You're a prized war horse. Chernobyl's got all these horses they reintroduced, these prized endangered ponies.
Brzezinski horses, right?
You're like a prized endangered pony. It makes a good.
I like it. I like it.
Let me close my door better.
Speaking of your Chernobyl.
Everybody fuck off. Turn your camera on.
Well, I just got off a call with Alan from the Flat Earth Nation Day Pretoria channel. And he's so fascinating. I feel like he's so beyond what most people actually bother to look at. So they don't really understand some of the stuff he's talking about. Because when you talk about the Bible and Christianity, it's a little much for people.
I feel really fucking lonely for not having a webcam. And you can check that one out.
Lee is looking high definition as ever. Oh my God, what a beautiful man. I'm so glad you're well. I remember the other day you didn't seem, let's say, to feel nearly as well as you look like you're doing right now. So I'm glad you're doing it.
Yeah, well, I sat out in the sun a little bit. So feeding ducks and pigeons. That was fun.
Feeding ducks and pigeons. That's the best medical therapy I've ever heard.
Yeah, I spent more time out of hospital than in hospital because I was constantly going down for cigarette breaks. So.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah.
That can't be good for you.
They're brutal.
Cigarette breaks are brutal, but also the food. I saw some pictures of that food you had. I was like, is this supposed to make you better?
You know what? It wasn't too bad actually. It was.
Who's showing that picture?
Also showing a picture. I don't have a bloody webcam, you asshole.
I really like this picture of Mike. Mike looks. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just saw a picture of Mike, and he looks so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. You know,
that's like 10 years old, though.
Oh, Andreas, you're the only non-cigarette smoker. Oh yeah, you smoke as well. That's true.
I don't smoke cigarettes. I can't find a cigarette near about. I mean, you convinced me to because you said you burned out the nicotine. You said I burned the nicotine out of the cigarette, and I'm like 10 years old. I'm like, oh, I believe in you. Victor wouldn't lie. But yeah, I feel much better now. I haven't been smoking at all. You know, I'll socially allow it, but yeah, I haven't had a thing. I'm not smoking anything right now. I'm in completely like mormonic level of sobriety right now. I'm Bog Millism.
Wait a second. Wow. You don't sneak soda?
I'm not even soda. Are you kidding me? I drink bubbly water sometimes. But I don't drink soda pop. No, I don't drink bottles of pop.
Good.
No.
Me either.
There's caffeine in soda pop. That wouldn't be good for you.
Look at my teeth. I mean, there's no way I can have these beautiful teeth if I were to drink all that Coca-Cola. Just rots it away. Did you say that in kindergarten? Is that just me? All right.
No, that's real.
All right. I do have
my sister's husband.
I do have this, which is it's a bottle of wine mixed with bubbly water. So It's a liter of wine right now. Let's be real.
Right.
That is not Mormon.
I'm a bit Jesuit. I'm a little bit country. You know.
You're cracking me up.
I'm just having a liter of wine here. That's okay.
You know, I don't smoke. I just, by the gallon.
By the gallon. Those space bags. I use it for different reasons.
I was actually crying a little bit earlier, so I'm probably looking a bit red and weird as well. So
you do look like you have blush. You're very blushy.
Oh, I had a little bit of an altercation with not a neighbor, a gardener. So it was really unnecessarily traumatic, but I'll live. And
I want to make a movie about your life. A man that has a serious altercation with a gardener. I think that's the kind of problems that would entertain other people.
The lawnmower man when I sent the email to the housing co-op anyway. So the subject of the email was the lawnmower man. So
Oh my god.
in my rage, I had a sense of humor about it. So.
Yeah. You seem like you would have to in order to deal with such an issue. Well, Victor, also, I wanted to ask you some stuff really quickly. Have you been noticing the monadical nature of the universe is kind of replacing the atomic, the subatomic and everything? We might be real. We can still talk about subatomic particles. But if we're changing the map of things as they expand outwards, we're not looking at things as bigger the way we've been told because we're basing it on this new model of the Earth, or rather the original model of it. Then monads are more important. Valentine talked a lot about them about 100 AD or whatever Fomenko calls that now. So I'm starting to believe in it a little bit more, this idea of a primordial monadical universe instead of the contemporary physical model of the atom structure, at least the structure that we're being told about. The monad might be. Have you heard about the monad? What do you think about that?
I think the monad is the key to understanding a lot of stuff. Also, it's just a great tool to just study the Eastern religions with, and also a lot of Western philosophers such as Spinoza, for instance. A lot of pantheism and Buddhism can be understood through the monad, but it is also itself a very hard concept. You can ponder the concept in many ways, I have found. So whatever you relate it to is important, because in itself it's just the monad. How do you qualify it? How do you use it to explain stuff, basically?
Let me open up. Let me see if I can find this thing I was looking at just a second ago. Valentine monad. I was looking into this. You look on Wikipedia about Azoth, I think, and it talks about the Caduceus symbol, which is kind of this toroidal thing. If you look at it properly, it's in a 3D sense, south above, so below. And alkahest, the substance, it's this. I'm starting to believe maybe alkahest was or is the realm within the monad that is subatomic particles. If we're going to use those words, also atom and monad, you could scramble some letters backwards and forwards, and you might find a word that was pretty similar.
Well, yeah.
Let's get.
Yeah, you may be right.
But yeah, when I was a kid, I was told monads were stupid. Like literally, my first thing. I was like, "What's a monad?" I heard about that in philosophy, probably like 6 to 8 years old. My mom was like, "Oh, it's a cool thing, blah blah." My dad was like, "Oh, monads are stupid," And the guy who brought up monads was stupid, and I was like, "Okay." My dad probably not lying, but then I started looking into it like years later because of that, and so now I'm starting to think Valentinus is actually right on the money, and look also the symbol for the twin tail, with a rooster hat on, crowing.
That is a whole tale in itself, yeah. But yeah, the idea of the monad, relatedness or non-division or a whole holistic universe or one being, as we have found in the New Age community, is an idea coming out that we are the brain cells in a huge mind of God, one big being, and that enforces the idea that the whole thing is alive and biological and fractal. And that is what Mike finds evidence for in geology and his stone hearts, for instance, and the fractal nature of that as well. So the monad also supports that idea, or the other way around. Those type of evidences support the idea of the monad as being like, instead of the theory of special relativity by Einstein, you can consider that as like the counterpart to having a physical view. Yeah, but I think you know what I mean, because Einstein's idea of relativity is like that there is no unity everywhere or no interconnectedness between systems. There's everything is relative, right? So everything about a conceptualization of a divine source is just thrown out in the trash bin.
Well, it's funny because, you know, if you think about it, it's Einstein, you know, even admitted he was wrong and he gave up on his spin of Lemaire's theory. But Lemaire's theory goes back to these primordial or primal Christian ideas or paleo-Christian ideas, esoteric as they might seem. They're actually very sophisticated. They're more sophisticated probably in understanding 2,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, whatever, than we're being right now. Maybe you and I are doing okay, but some people are like saying the supreme being is as far out as you can get, whereas the monad is the center.
It's true, Andreas, that Einstein retracted his ideas about relativity. Like I have this quotation I can read here. So I'll read. Einstein initially stated that light did not need a medium for transportation, and thus the conclusion was made that the ether therefore did not exist. Einstein half-heartedly tried to retract this conception 15 years later in a very little-known lecture in 1920 at the University at Leiden, whereby he stated that, and I quote Einstein now, "We may say that according to the general theory of relativity, space is endowed with physical qualities. In this sense, therefore, there exists an ether. According to the general theory of relativity, space without ether is unthinkable. For in such space, there not only would be no propagation of light, but also no possibility of existence for standards of space and time." And it goes on, "for space and time, and nor therefore any space-time intervals in the physical sense," end quote. By then, however, the damage was already done, and the world of physics, by and large, is still carrying forward with this contention that there is no ether based on Einstein's theories. So he pretty much tried to retract his theories, but when nobody knows about it, it doesn't really matter.
And I mean, it's just so hilarious because you start with Lemaire, right? And he, let me get a picture up. Lemaire came out with this,
He's a Belgian Jesuit priest, right?
Yeah, but don't hold that against him, you know? Like, he was a student, right? He was a student, and he studied at the best school at the time. And, you know, yeah, of course. I mean, wouldn't you if you were wearing that thing around your neck and you're right next to Einstein? I mean, that guy's weird, and he's stealing all your ideas and making them popular. I mean, how many of us are making videos that other people are taking ideas from? And it's like, this guy has this idea based on, you know, the God is the center of everything, and that we're all part of this thing. And then this guy's like, I have an idea. Why don't I take his theories and just say that there is no God, which is like the weirdest thing you could say at the time. And we're like, oh, that's cool. So, but then
stick my head in this electrical appliance and look at my hair now.
He's very punk rock, you know. But like, you move on a bit from the punk rock nature of Einstein, and you lack substance. Whereas Lemaire, he was like right there, and he's like, I got an idea. If you look at mass versus the speed that light is traveling, it might be there's some equivalency law. And Einstein's like, I got an idea. There's no such thing as God. And he based it on his math. And wouldn't you be annoyed if you were into God and someone did that? I would be. I'm just saying. But the thing is, we're looking into this stuff. Well, it's not that Lemaire came up with it. He was just trying to use modern math to describe and deal with all this old math. The Song Dynasty, which is, if you look at the flamenco numbers, pretty recently, it had a lot of this yin yang, as above, so below kind of Sephardic math that talks about bismuth, or the Book of Changes has a lot to do with chaos.
Yeah.
And chaos being an energy that is being described as there's this absolute, which is the unconditioned ultimate, the holy other, the supreme being. Are any of these words not offensive to you if you're an atheist? I don't know. The absolute reality, the ground of being, Urgrun, the absolute principle. You could say this instead of God, and it would
you could say first cause. You could say first cause, as Plato termed it.
You could say a lot of things, and you have to find the one that doesn't offend most people. So whichever one of these words makes you comfortable. But
find the unmoved mover is a pretty good term. The unmoved mover.
You're a fan of St. Thomas Aquinas. That's not a bad, not a bad guy. He's like, it's kind of Shazam.
I don't know if I'm a fan of him, of his, but
fanatic's a strong word. But you've read
the two ontological primitives is something that I still use in logical arguments, because it is a true dichotomy so far, and no one has come up with a third solution. So it's an interesting thing to know about the two ontological primitives. I guess we already know about them.
Well, if you think about the tar tetrad, right, the premier tetrad, there's this idea of all things being tied together, and each one of them is existent in the sense that we represent it by our consciousness. But Bethos, right? Bethos is this depth of profundity. And I think you might be able to describe all of the coolness that you consider the creation that we're a part of, through the depth of profundity, which is the lacing between logos and consciousness and energy, and even what do they call it, the aeon telos, which is the perfect aeon, aeon being an emanation of God. So, if we're
an avatar, right, as in
an avatar,
the Hindus would term it,
or Nickelodeon kids with Avatar: Last Airbender. So these are words that are totally acceptable now, but you just can't say God. That's fine. I'll get over it. But
God is the most boring word.
I wish that were true. It seems to be. It triggers people a lot. If it was so boring, then why are they so annoyed by it?
I just mean, compared to everything that you could say in place of the word God, we have so many cool options.
You just got me onto bogmilism because you did that. Bog pill. Do you ever, Nathan, you want to give a quick rundown on the bog pill?
No, we shouldn't go there.
It's too late. It's too late. We're already there. It's happened today. I want to make the point. Bog did not. We're not going to go too deep.
Facts.
We're not going to go. I'm going to let you guys do your own quick rundown on bog pill and the Bogdanovs. The only thing that matters about this right now is that about a year ago, when I first started making these videos, I was introduced to this concept of bogomilism, which is a neo-Gnostic Christian religion. And now it means the love of the dear God. Bog is a Slavic word for God. And to say bogomil means a dear one to God. And I just did an interview with Alan from De Paternia, and he was talking about how he wants to revive bogomilism. And I was like, that's just so on point and synchronic to what we've been talking about with Stellium 7, Mike, because he said mind-boggling wrong, and he said bog-mindling. And it's been bog-mindling.
That's our spell. That's the spell we're using most of these days, and it's a good spell with a good intention behind it. It's bog-mindling.
To try to be introduced into God's thoughts into your mind, basically, which is it's what you only thought you should really want to have is one that God approves of or gives you. But this is this thing that's supposed to have come from Tsar Peter I era in the 10th century, which do your flamenco math on that. But you'll find it's very similar to Valentinus, which talks about the monadical universe. And where was it popular? Dalmatia, Croatia. Ooh, I like that. I do. And the Cathars were, kind of controversially associated with them, but they weren't super into what had become of them. But now,
and if you have seen Sylvia's videos on the Cathars, they seem to share a lot of traits with Tatars. So is it just another Baba Tatar thing? Cathar? Could be.
I I tend to wonder the same thing, especially with ka sounds, ta sounds. But okay, here's the thing: can you look it up? No, because most of the literature, like anything from the Song Dynasty in China with the Taoism, most of the literature about Bog Dynasty was destroyed. So, you know, the proto-Christian churches that believe in this stuff, what do we know about them? Well, basically, they say that they believe that God created man's soul, but the matter was an invention of Satan. And God's older son, who, in seducing Eve, lost his creative power. Concerning the Bogomils, something can be gathered about the polemic against the newly appeared heresy of the Bogomils, written in Slavonic by Cosmas the priest. Check out Cosmas the priest. You're going to have to do a whole thing on the destruction of the proto-church, because there was an entirely different way of looking at things, even in the Christian realm of reality, up until they removed the missing years of Christ's life and began the, you know, what's that book, Dan Brown? That Dan Brown period, the Da Vinci Code. This is all pre-Da Vinci Code truth right here. So check out how it was destroyed by Cosmos. But yeah, so this all gets back into atoms. Which one, Cosmos or what?
No, when you look at Cosmos, it'll call him the presbyter.
Oh
yeah,
and
the presbyter.
Presbyteros, right? Which means elder, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah.
It's episkopos and presbyteros are the important words. Elder or senior. Look at that. My Greek roots aren't too bad. So episkopos, episkopos means overseer. And presbyter means kind of like a remembrance, or it's someone who comes from the older days and remembers how things and keeps them going.
Or as the Talmudic words, the Amora or the Tana, sage or wise man.
Well, you might say a sage is someone who
those
connects
were
with spirits.
Yeah.
Sages can connect with spirits, you know. And then you think about the crystalline reality of blood, which is sorry, we're going so deep now, but people say we're not speaking fast enough about this.
No, man, take me to Xanadu.
Xanadu, also because you had to say that. Xanadu was the name the MG12 document refers to when Vannevar Bush says he's going to recreate the internet. Create the new internet, however you look at it, in the 30s and 40s. They wanted to call the internet Xanadu originally. So, but yeah, in terms of what we're talking about, in terms of this ancient correlation with crystalline reality. So blood in the sea, we've got seawater and blood are very similar things, but there's high mineral content in seawater. And where does all the salts come from? All the minerals come from? Well, I mean, the craziest theory and the oldest one, and they're always the best usually. The craziest, the oldest are the best, is the idea of the Titan's blood and the spilling out of the sweat as they drowned in the seas and releasing all the salts from their lives into the deluge. So I'm not saying I'm convinced of anything, but it's something very interesting to me because we don't have a very great explanation yet for the crystalline life, except for, they say mushrooms broke apart using chemical processes, the rocks, right? Whatever rocks are. And now we're seeing titans, we're seeing giant sea urchins, giant sea stars, and maybe even elephants and things like that. If this is real, then what we might have just found is a connection for the crystalline reality, that the structure, the subatomic or the post-monadic structure of reality, and why sages exist, why these hermits have to live in places that are sobered and silenced so they're able to connect with this crystalline life. And what does the crystalline life do? Well, it allows you to organize in ways that we've already seen exist. We now know that DNA can be sent through data waves and light. If we look at radio waves and we see how we can actually send and seed with radio genetic material, well, then who's to say we're not able to seed philosophical truths through the minds of these sages?
Oh, now this is a really good one, because access to that crystalline structure is the same thing as remembering past lives. It's the same thing as the blood having a mimetic legacy that you tap into.
Mm-hmm.
And so these sages, the presbyters, the Tana, the Amorai, all of these, they would do that. In essence, Jean Grey has to get away from people because she needs silence, because she can't control her shit. And there you have Hermeticism.
Oh, monkey duck. Let me do a little quick screen flash or something so I can know that that's a time. Well, that means he did it again. Oh,
In your face.
You monkey ducker, you laddie. All right. You know, it's just so many things you could say that no one's ever heard, like flamingo. You know, you could just yell other words, but okay.
Ooh.
I did
have a
suggest
good
you
one.
put a PG rating on this shit to just get rid of all that stuff.
Ooh.
Solved.
Yeah, but
You
I
did
like it when people get commercials for kids shows. You know, that's fine.
What the hell kind of sponsor do you have?
I know, right? Seriously. Well, okay, but last thing I want to say about this, I'm gonna shift it back to what you guys are talking about, which was the superstructure of the celestial system are the aeons, right? We talked about this perfect aeon, these celestial worlds of aeons. Here, just developed in the most complicated way, not the most simple way. And this is something that DNA has kind of made it really hard for atheists because it kind of proves without a shadow of a doubt that there's an intelligence to the design of things. And you can kind of downplay how intelligent, but not very much, because DNA is so freaking intelligent from ground zero that it's not something that we're not working together to come up with the solution. It's more like we're finding it and it was already there. So together with the source from which they emanate is the form of pleroma. And pleroma, the transition from the immaterial to the material, from the nominal to the sensible, is brought by a flaw or a passion or a sin. In the female aeon, Sophia, right? And Sophia is Cassandra, and also wisdom, Sufism. All of it seems to come from this idea. It seems like the Jesuits, they weren't really part of the Catholic Church up until they pushed for themselves to be. And they kind of just said they always were. In the 1700s, they went and they killed the Pope. They got a new Pope. They dug up the old Pope and they excommunicated his body for saying that they weren't part of the church. And now we just go with it. But it sounds like they're the ones who gave the CIA the idea of wearing all black. And, you know, they went around saying, oh, that's how you connect to these crystalline spirits. You know, they figured out everyone doing it and they kind of copied it. And that's my Ogdod piece. Back to you.
Very interesting.
Back to the bog.
Back to the bog.
Well, yeah, I can share images if you want.
It's time.
Okay, I'll share my screen. Let's see what we have for today. I think I wanted to go touch on this again, the plaque I brought up. You might remember this, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Does anyone remember what observations we made the last time?
Yes, a celestial tracking.
It
I
was,
can't
it
remember
was a pretty
exactly.
big place to begin with. There
I
was
remember,
people in this image, right?
first off, there are doors for giants and there are doors for little people. Second off, there was this Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark like description of the light that focused to the right places. And third off, I recall the shields being super important to this, and that's all I recall. Well,
Yeah.
You know.
I think there's something going on with the plaques somehow, either being sometimes like a decoration for where light would come out of a perhaps polished metal tube that reflects the light from the outside and makes it go into the house, or there's something completely else going on, perhaps something about sunlight charging diverse materials that then could perhaps be put into illumination somehow, because it seems like there's something going on that we don't quite understand, and it seems to be still involved with light, but it's
Fresnel,
weird.
everything from Fresnel lenses to the shields being painted not with faces but with actual metallic materials like gold or silver. So, you know, the pyramids were covered at one point with metal and the gold was removed. So I kind of wouldn't be surprised if during the 80-year period of iconoclasm, they removed the reflective paint from these shields.
Yeah, and I think we should think about metals as well. But the fleur-de-lis for not only being a political symbol and an ancient symbol of perhaps the bee and a lot of other stuff, it seems to also just be a regular old resonator sometimes on the top of spires.
Wow.
Do you
but-
remember the conversation we had on the years of miasma?
Yeah.
This also could just be a way, I don't mean just, it's pretty incredible, a way to light and power devices inside. And so with the
inside.
miasma there, you have a constant darkness and a noxious fume to fight off and warm yourself despite. And so read that to me.
You can see it says machine. It's prepared. I'm not Italian is not my strong suit. I probably could get this translated pretty easily, but I wanted to get the machine part out. So somehow this is here it is.
Nas means wedding. I got that one.
Yeah. So it has to do with the regular old. Every time we see illumination technology, that there has to be a wedding connected to it, and it's kind of weird.
Well, the marriage of something might also be considered the connection, the union of the thing, but it could also be a human ceremony, tying two virgins.
Lee, do you remember how we talked about etymology being digging up past meanings of words forgotten? I think that ball and ballet meant something completely different.
Yeah, I agree. I've seen it used in other contexts as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it could also be that they found this picture, and this is the added propaganda piece they sold the picture to the public with. I'm thinking that, but it says it is a machine, and it has to do with a wedding, but it doesn't look too wedding-esque to me, other than like musicians. And this guy has a compass.
That compass? Yeah. What?
Yeah.
And there's bourbon, right? You saw that word bourbon. So there's something about alcohol mixed with the marriage of these dynamic virgins.
This, I think, is a name. You can see it is capitalized.
Bourbon? Wait, that's a place.
It reminds me.
Oh yeah. The Pico Bourbon.
I was going to suggest each of them is an archetype. Each of those individuals that are drawn there.
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah.
I was looking at this at some very old drawings, depictions of the chariots of the gods being the planets, each planet having their own theme or imagery and archetypal meaning. And so that each chariot, so you'd have like Saturn would be a chariot with an old man and a giant sickle, and he'd be eating a baby, and at the same thing, whilst and having a flying griffin, and each one would have a slightly different variation. But I wonder how many men there are standing there, because I wonder if they would be representative of the original astrological.
I think 1, 2, 3. There's this could be the summer or the warmer months, if it is anything. For instance, in Freemasonry, they have a focus on the 7 warmer months, and then they have a disdain for the 5 winter or darker months. And they also don't like the north. They say the north is evil. So it's quite imbalanced by it's an imbalance they insert into the lower ranks, I feel.
Wasn't someone saying in the server about going to a Hindu place, and they had a Hindu farm or something where they had 7 years of one thing, 7 years of another, and because of the way they did it, they would rotate the crops. It was interesting. It's just aside from that.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to.
If we didn't do that, then if we did that, we wouldn't need to add everything to the soil. The way they just keep using it over and over again, they have to put sulfates and everything in the wine. The whole thing is because they won't just rotate the crops.
Yeah, but guys, look, it's a very old world plaque on the top of the Flatiron building, as I showed before through my phone whilst I was in Spain, and it somehow there's an illumination going up of here. So it may be the same technology as we see here, but it could also be that they mounted a projector up here or something.
What always struck me as interesting about that Flatiron building is the gate in front of it.
Mike, maybe you could find that gate.
I don't know if it's there anymore.
Yeah,
There was
I know
an
from
archway. You remember that?
UAP made a video on it, and he found or concluded that it extends at least 4 or 5 stories below the ground.
Oh yeah, that was when he was talking about how these Fifth Avenue mansions were their foundations were hammered into the bedrock.
Yeah,
and the talking about the old floods that went through, and these buildings survived. That actually is one of the first mud flood videos I ever watched.
Yeah, he did excellent on some of the first ones he did. So
Yeah,
shout out to UAP, and go and subscribe to that man. He's incredible. No, he's actually quite credible, but his material is quite exquisite. Yeah.
Some more etymology there.
I just got the power just went out here. I feel like we must be on to the truth.
I also wanted to talk about this with Lee a bit. I know this monument isn't exactly. I thought it was an instance of something that is quite interesting, and that is that steam cloaking of dirigibles, which UAP also talks about, seems to be a thing when you have vessels in the sky and they cloak themselves with a thin layer of smoke. And
smoke. That's all about smoke and mirrors, man. That's
smoke
what the
and mirrors.
Yeah, see, that's how the active camouflage works. And some of these, they've actively been reporting about it. There was an article in Popular Mechanic that I found a week ago. That was 2016, maybe, about something called the Pegasus X-47B, which is a drone. And the thing about it, it has something called active camouflage, which is a type of basically its surface is reflective, so that when it's in the sky, you will literally not see it because it will be reflecting the sky behind it, and it's very interesting. This technology is available. It exists, and the fact that it's in smaller form, it makes me think, well, they already have it. Then they've had it for a long time. It's probably already exists in bigger form, and they've just trickled it down, literally trickling it down to us in baby form, or in that case, a tiny military drone.
And I think that the idea to cloak a flying device is what you're seeing here on this aerostat. And I don't know whether this is a very intelligent balloon that they made to look as a temple, but I actually think that this is like an outer shell, as you would have in some of the expositions, and inside you have a balloon. So it's pretty neatly done. It could also be that something else going on.
Do you remember where they floated that palace?
The castle.
Looked at it and I mistranslated that French, and now I've lost all confidence in my French. But it could be the very same thing.
Yeah, it could be that this machine actually had a lot of buoyancy power and could actually float a huge stone vessel. It is 65 feet in height. So these guys
with electromagnetic ions, that would be the perfect way to do that.
Well, that looks like Kami's. It looks like Kami's power.
Are you guys familiar with Luke Howard, the British
1784?
He was a Scottish dude, who did meteorology. And my dad, as a kid, he was like, I always like to look at clouds as a kid. Everybody as a kid likes to look at clouds and see things in the clouds. But my dad was like, do you ever notice how and I don't remember why he brought this up, but it was something that annoyed him. Like, you ever notice how like cloud nomenclature systems come from Luke Howard? And he didn't start making cloud maps until 1850s or something like that, or 1802 or whatever it was. Like, I think it says he proposed nomenclature in Wikipedia in 1802 to the Askesian Society of British Scientists and Astronomers and Astrologers. But before that, we didn't have the same system. Before before 1812, essentially, we didn't have the same system for cloud nomenclature until this amateur meteorologist and astute Freemason was able to come up with them. So it makes me wonder a lot about that
Very
period.
interesting.
Well, to be honest, I've got I'm extremely skeptical and very suspicious of these cloud names. I mean, Homogenetus Cirrus being the name for chemtrails now, you know, it's man-made clouds. It's ridiculous. To me, I think that's all. It's all bullshit. I think all of that. It's just things we're doing. It's all about misdirecting people. Yeah, they don't need to look up in the sky when they've got weathermen keeping an eye on it for them, making defining how it all works, what it's called. You know, I'm at that point where I don't believe it anymore because I've been watching this shit for far too long. And
we have also seen man-made ground-based cloud making, and I think this could also be a representation of this going on in antiquity. This is like a land-based monument, and it's producing a whole lot of steam, just as this one. And these carriages are also producing steam, it would look like. It could also be like a very thick layer of smoke somehow. But what I wanted to say with this one, you will find, like, for instance, in Vienna, there is a monument looking like very much like this, and these clouds are made of stone, in Vienna at least. So sometimes it is just part of the art, but that is just incredible how you could make stone clouds, and if this could very well be stone. So just imagine like the level of artists you are dealing with here, the intricacy of like the whole art piece is just amazing.
It's almost as if a human couldn't possibly have done that.
Yeah, it's totally.
What was existing before? What kind of beings existed before it? And is this the literature, the illustrations, the work of a previous civilization that actually were giants or whatever? You know, it's
truly bog-minding stuff.
Look at that. I mean, like 74 or 84, whatever it was.
65 feet in height. And 126 in circumference, I think it says. Maybe 120.
I've seen that eyes.
Oh, yeah.
So when you start looking at the crafts they make now, like Lockheed's crafts, and that's been the thing that's been on my mind recently since the last episode we did, because Victor had shown this craft that reminded me on a marine vessel similarly. Well, Lockheed makes these giant, heavy things. It's like, and I remember meeting these old guys in their 70s who are like, what we love to do is make things that just shouldn't be able to fly. Because that's
talking about Lockheed. This is a picture I got from Sylvie Ivanova. She's shown this. Amazing. She is an amazing lady. Shout out to her. And this is basically old Lockheed, Middle Ages Lockheed. And her point was that in normal rocket science, they say that this pointy end here is modern technology, and that old rockets, even for fireworks, wouldn't utilize this this shape.
The funny thing, it also resembles a shape in the Nuremberg UFOs. So if you had the original image of that, it's got it's like a giant arrow basically, and it's pretty much like that.
And the cigars.
It also looks like a little Pisces fish here.
Right. Yeah, look at the sigil drawn on that.
Oh yeah! Wow, good point. That's such a sigil. That's totally
it is.
It is a sigil, yeah.
Oh,
and
man.
Also, if you want to get on the subject of giants, that's a giant lance head.
It could also be a giant lance head, yeah.
True. Well, I mean, it's definitely big for that person holding it.
When you mentioned that, Nathan, that's pretty. I added something more to the lance talk. Let me see if I have gotten it in here yet. A little bit more in the lance. It's just some more pieces. I think this I have shown, but yeah, look at this. This guy is carrying a lance like handheld. So it's not. It is a musket gun, as Nathan says. I found a book. Martin has shown it in one of his videos, like a few months back, where it's a book on ancient weapons, and they talk about a musket gun, which is a long spear that would and they basically say that the guy carrying it had the power of 10 soldiers or musketeers.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the hole on it. It's very thin.
They love to say this stuff was like, they love to say this stuff was invented in China. As a kid, they're like, everything was invented in China and they just didn't care. And then years later, they sold it back to the Chinese. The British did. They're like, come there a few centuries later and sold them gunpowder and gear work clocks and everything that they had 1,000 years earlier, but just forgot about. Well, that story might have some truth.
I feel this is a Tata. I'm not quite sure, but he definitely looked Tata.
What do you think about his black robes, though? Because I don't know about black. Do you think black is a
he's got one fully colored arm.
Well, black is the one of Saturn's color. It is the color of Capricorn, and it is female in nature or in alchemy, and it represents cardinal Earth, which is the highest emanation of the sacred feminine. So
Jesuits love it.
Pretty much
The Japanese love it.
Well, yeah, as you know, they take the Jupiterians like to emulate a vision or an appearance outwardly to that they worship Saturn, but they actually worship Jupiter and Mars. So there is a lot of stuff going on with that, and we should definitely talk more about that.
Why do they like to pretend? I'm curious. I got to go in there now. Why do they pretend that they worship Saturn then?
Because if someone knows the truth of you, then they can know you, and so diffusion and deception are the first two bits of safety that you can have against any stranger.
Talking about Saturn, right? And now we can talk about perhaps the ancient war, because this is probably a Mexican walking in Mexico or something very similar, because these guys, especially also the guys living in Florida, they wore these feathers on their heads. And they use winged symbology, and also on a horse. And you have the 3 Turkish moons, which would identify them as being part of the old Byzantium. At least.
But look at his fur legs.
Yeah, I guess it was part of the cold. It was beginning to grow cold at this point in the world.
I would say that this had something to do with South America just by the legs.
Yeah, it does. It looks very South American, and he looks out. But my point is also that the red man, and the red in alchemy is a symbol or is a color of Aquarius, another house of Saturn, and they are basically Saturn's good people, or let's say chosen people, or Saturn's chosen people, which the Jews proclaim today. So they say we are the chosen God's chosen people. They go back to the 12 tribes, right? And we know that Tartary is intimately connected with that. So they want to usurp by deception that heritage, or claim that they were the originators of the old empire or such. Because Saturn in Capricorn is all about government. So Capricorn is about government. The whole sign is about order and organization and government. And so they made the goat look very bad through Satanism. And we know that Satan it basically comes from a word that means adversary, shaitan, from Hebrew, I think. And the adversary is a role being played by a different planet every age. And the adversary of this age is the ruler of this age, which is Jupiter. and basically all his vices have been amplified, and his vices are deception and greed and gluttony. And those are the three things that drive lots of the things that are very wrong with the state of the world right now. And that deception is partly due to a lot of people have been misled in the spiritual metaphysics about who is Saturn and who is Satan and who is Jupiter. And the whole relationship between Kronos and Zeus throwing over his father. And basically that is the destruction of the old world. And Jupiter represents empire and expansion, expansion. So get Pan out of Sion, expansion. And so get Saturn or Hades out of the Olympian gods, get him out of there, put him into Tartary, put him down to Hades, right? Can you see how Greek mythology and Hercules has been about glorifying Zeus and everything that comes from Zeus, which is Hercules and Bacchus, which is more of the perversion. And then they say, oh, we're God's chosen people, or we're Saturn's chosen people, when they threw him over and basically oppose everything that he is about. For instance, this is Saturnian symbolism, because in Aquarius, that is an air sign. Each of the air signs in alchemical symbolism is symbolized by wings. So this is Saturnian symbolism. And no wonder how it looks very good, right? Wings are a beautiful symbol that invokes good connotations. They don't want you to see Saturn.
Yes, and the wings are the power to leave the Tartarus.
Yes, also that.
It's the power to leave. Yes, also Mercury, Lee.
Yeah, Mercury is...
this, so Mike and I we just poured over 2 books, and I'm going to send these books to you or put them on the Foundry to make sure you see them. But it actually goes right into the things you're saying, but we didn't really look at this from an esoteric angle, at least not so much. It involves the original finding of the ruins of Herculaneum.
That was good.
The old city. Yeah, the 2 books that we looked at were all about what man did when the volcanoes came back, and the reason for the catacombs and everything. And yet, what you would see in that, I'd be interested to see your take on those novels.
I will definitely look into it, but yeah, finishing up on the lands, it is as we have shown, a weapon, a musket gun, and there seems to be more than one mechanism to make it a musket gun.
Yeah, there's like 20 types of cell phones, so it wouldn't be a far cry.
So yeah, what more? I had a lot of stuff. For instance,
tell me about I'm sorry to drag off topic. You were starting to talk about the pyramids, and we never got onto that idea.
Okay, yeah. So Martin Liedtke just made he just caused a huge paradigm shift as far as I'm concerned. And it involves what the pyramids really are. And most of you may remember the one where I had my monologue about the pyramids and the Phoenicians and the Egyptians and the Tartarians. I basically feel a little bit humbled now after I've watched Martin's videos on what the pyramids really are, because now it's really clear that this pyramid park was preparation for the flood. And these are basically Noah's Ark, as described in the Bible. And the whole civilization would go into these, and underneath this complex is a huge underground complex where you could sustain people for very long periods of time, I would guess. And not to take away anything from the Antiquitech idea of the pyramids still being able to generate their own energy and do all sorts of stuff, perhaps being covered in electrum and gathering atmospheric electricity.
Well, if they're covered in gold, then they can be the power source for the city that lies beneath. So that's an easy thing to corroborate. Now, these pyramids, the funny thing about that is digging into the etymology of Ark of the Covenant was the biggest thing I pulled from it. Ark is refuge, and covenant is a sacred pact or bond or agreement between two peoples. And covenant we usually use between a master and those that master rules. And so the Ark of the Covenant, breaking down the etymology, is the refuge of the agreement between God and man, or gods and man. So the agreed upon refuge.
And you also have, it's funny because, you know, a boat is arco or arca, arch, and arco or barco. You have a lot of words being very closely related, being that of arch and being that of arc and that of boat and arcane. Yeah, because you have the whole arc, the whole arcana went into the pyramids, and no wonder that in these resets that all the people wanted to hoard these pyramids and wanted all the knowledge that all the ancients had preserved in here, not elsewhere, but in here, because that is where they would pile up all the stuff to carry into the next age.
Yes, right? And the arcane or the lesser arcanum or greater arcanum, anything you want to call it, is the ability to create your refuge, your safe spot, to structure the world, and it will save you. So we could call that the saving art.
The saving arc, yeah. And here they are. And probably people are wondering how you could conflate a boat with like a static object. But if you watch Martin's latest episode, it was a boat. But if you watch Martin's latest episode, he will leave you with no doubts as to that they indeed were arcs and Noah's Ark. And it's pretty funny how some people are beginning to say that, or well, Andreas, what do you call DNA again?
Digital Noah's Archive. Because it's a collection of all the different kinds, 2 or 7, and hexadecimal strands. And also, you know, the story of the pyramids related to the 7 years of famine and the 7 years of plenty. So preparing for the famine during the 7 years of plenty, building these things in order to withstand the complete collapse of society.
Definitely.
And to equate that to animals, do we call winter evil? No, but a squirrel spends the summer storing nuts.
Well, also, you know, Adam is a Sumerian word for the many animals, right? For like the kingdom of Animalia.
Yeah.
We're all, you know, so there's something we said also about like there were maybe Noah, you know, because he's got a family of of several sons with several wives, and he's bringing several different human lineages at the same time. You know, I don't know how safely to describe that, but it sounds kind of like the beginnings of different looking people come from the different sons of Noah's different wives. You know?
And we are, so tracing back to Adam, that would make all of us the constituent parts of Adam, all the people. And this would mean that a covenant between God and Adam would result in the people, the constituent parts of Adam, creating the Ark of the Covenant, or the refuge.
Yeah.
It's also interesting what you brought up, Nathan, about, or was it Nathan or was it Victor, about the difference between a covenant and a contract. Because a contract being between 2 mutually agreed parties, and a covenant being between senpai and, you know, and kohai. You know, it's not the same.
No, the covenant has the air of the sacred.
Yeah. And also the submittance of the kohai to the senpai. So it's not necessarily that the Lord is supposed to have an agreed party. The covenant's more of a deal that the Lord says, all right, this is how it's going to work. you know, and then the Kohai goes with Senpai's rules.
And when you think about it, it's just a little bit redundant because the covenant itself is an arc. Stick with me and you'll never go hungry again.
Wow, that's a good point. The doctrines and the covenants are in the arc, you know.
Yeah, the arc is the covenant. And so to think of the arc as a physical thing, we already have a philosophical arc when we make a covenant. Our refuge is in the covenant.
But if you touch it, you die.
Well, you just have to pick the carpenter's cup.
Well, in terms of antiquitech devices, some of the ones we see a lot, I feel, is the crown on top of a lot of buildings. So have a look out for that. And also some people think that these are the remnants of giant grounds lying around, and then the people took them and put them on top of buildings to show off. But I feel they are
grounds.
Yeah.
I find it more and more interesting. You got these pictures of these woodcuts, you know, so they're all black and white, but they're of a time where they were, you know, now we're looking at these pictures and I go to a museum and they'll say, download the app and you can see what it looked like back then. And all they do is they color it and make it really colorful. They're like, everything was covered in paints made of beautiful metals. And this place probably was covered in shiny materials that were colorful, a lot of them. They weren't just gray and boring. And they've been stripped away. And the pictures of them, well, they're black and white, you know, so all you're seeing is the lines.
Also, see here the more of the cloud making, it would seem.
Wow. Hey, now we're going to see clouds everywhere from now on, aren't we?
That fleur-de-lis chariot and the Sultan in his onion head hat.
And also,
what do you call that hat? The Fergian hat, right? It's a Fergian cap.
Is that like a narwhal skull he's pinching that guy with?
I like that. you got your spyglass backward, bro.
Oh yeah, that's right. I recently saw a picture. I haven't added it here, where a guy is fighting another guy with the lance turned backwards, and I was like, huh?
Oh, like, you know, you ever notice how weird it is to hold a, well, this is a silly question.
Oh, look at that.
It is kind of weird to hold a grenade launcher, right? Have you ever held a rocket launcher? I hope not. But if you have, it seems like it should shoot out the other direction than it does. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, look, is this a kid? Or is this a little adult and these all giants perhaps? And is this like are these Venetian masks?
I really hope it's not a kid, because what the heck is a kid doing in this crazy world right here?
Ooh,
look at that.
You know, the love of theater and all of this, and the creation of masks goes back to
Jesuitical.
I think on top of the esoteric meanings for it, during a time where the miasma, which I will not shut up about.
It is very important. Static in the Attic just had a huge focus on it in his recent videos.
Right after we talked about it, Mike and I saw that.
Giant plague doctors dressed like that. And
yeah, you just saw them there.
Humans were the plague.
Well, yeah, they want us to have a negative anthropology, but these look like the plague doctors, like the bird masks and the hi-hats.
Well, I think that everybody got onto this love of wearing masks for a simple purpose as well as fashion. It became fashion to hide your plague-ridden face.
But do you think this is the Moscow giant cannon?
Oh my gosh. Isn't it weird how all the World War I and II super guns, you know, they're really old, and we're seeing them in all of these pictures a couple centuries earlier being manufactured and used.
Look at the things to fill in like the cannon with. There's absolutely enormous.
In Finding Nemo, or is that the right one? You know, the Nemo and Slumberland comics, especially, they have people that shoot themselves out of these cannons, right? It's a huge cannon you can shoot.
Oh yeah,
Whoa,
there was
that was that just down there. The down part.
there used to be, Andreas. There used to be the idea about going to the moon, not with rockets, but by shooting yourself out of a giant cannon. I think I have a picture of
Yeah,
it.
that's where we get the Daredevil stunts from. Where
Well,
the
Vern loved that idea, and he was.
So that was
George
how
Martin.
they.
But wait, I want to go
programmed.
back a second because you just showed this picture, and I didn't quite understand what this tuning fork.
oh, that's
That's an agricultural thing. I feel.
Oh, you think it's like a plow?
animals to pull it.
Yeah, it's like for the horses to pull it. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Victor, do you remember when I was talking about casting?
Wait! But it looks like it's shooting the other direction. If again with the grenade launcher idea, if this is pushing away, then that'd be one thing. But you see how it would work. It would push towards the direction of that fork, not away from the direction of that fork.
No,
right?
they pull it. It's not assembled. That's stored and stacked for transport.
Got it. Okay.
Those cannons you see right there, they're of a fashion where they were actually casting them, a single piece.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the early versions blew up because the casting process was so misunderstood by the people who just picked it up. They just heard about it and tried it to make fucking weapons. Oops.
Well, it's also interesting what you brought up about the plague, and in terms of Jesuit stage, Jesuits taught science. They taught lots of things like math and astronomy, but they also were obsessed and are still with Jesuit theater. And it makes sense where this idea comes from, the transsexual.
The word kino, the German word kino for cinema, comes from a Jesuit priest called Father Kino.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there you go.
Funny. We found a bunch of theater masks, metal masks, and theater tools and costumes that were found and taken to Naples to the museum a few hundred years ago. That were all found in Herculaneum. Mm-hmm. So the old city had been practicing theater, they think.
Well, and theater being a magical thing, right? Like you look at the Jesuits' connection to Japan, and Japanese Edo periods is kind of like one of your school's time seals. You can look back and see things hidden that have been held, just kind of forgotten about, like Japanese theater, Noh theater, N-O-H theater, Kabuki theater, all of these theaters where it's all about invoking a spirit, and you're wearing a mask to represent that your body is not the actual body. It's a completely different kind of theater than, we used to have people that became the characters. Now we have actors that become these roles, and we associate the roles with the actors. So this all comes, I think, from this idea of the Jesuit masking and the Jesuit theater. And, even Shakespeare and Kabuki do the same thing of having men that don't have cycles that play the women characters, because it's a way of invoking the goddess within the man. Now we have pills so that women can just not have feelings during those times. They can be like Jonas Brothers at the age 15. But it used to
guys,
be
look at this.
Burning up for you.
This is the old world. This is what I basically view the old world as, and most of
home.
Yeah. Just everywhere. This was the standard of architecture.
Wow, look at all those statues. Are those giant statues in front there of like gods or
this is the the Roman knight, or the faceless knight that everybody talked, and the four of them. You also saw it back here. It's basically everywhere.
I was interested to know what the scale of the trees were in that illustration.
I think this is post-event, because everything looks pretty damaged, even though still pretty much, it could also be like this place isn't tidied up in the area or in the era it is depicted in. But
there's a description on the stone on the bottom right of the whole picture. You see that inscription on the broken stone? I wish that we had the image where we could read it.
Right.
Yeah, many of the images are secondary. But look at this. This I have the source for. This is Mexico City. And you know how they built Mexico City outside this lake, and the lake isn't there anymore. Mm-hmm. But I want to point to like how it looks like Venice. This looks like St. Mark's Square. Look, it even
even
could,
bigger than Venice. These are wider lakes.
yeah. It's just, and this is Mexico in the 1700s depicted. So it
Gullies?
could also,
Yes, and that control tower that's on the ruined rock to the right.
oh yeah,
That just like, so they built this on the bones of something that might have just blew up.
But look at those balls there as well, and
Look at those balls.
it's yeah. But imagine having, this is like a high civilization of Mexico. Very high. They look European here, even. But yeah, Vue de Mexique. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And also, this building I will be talking about in the future. I'm still looking a little bit more into it, but this building stood at the World Fair at St. Louis, and it is just magnificent.
That looks. I mean, come on. What? Okay, and there's a drill
This has
Zeppelin in the sky. This is
Yeah.
1904.
Added on to this old tower.
But this has to do with, they made something in the late 1800s called aerial globes, and it has to do with heliocentric programming. So they had like a huge map in here or something, but basically all the other ones would have like a huge globe and a huge globular map, and then people would have, the association with the beautiful architecture would be together with programming. So whenever they thought of the globe, they would associate it with this huge impression they got from this amazing experience. It's pretty I think it was something they had to do in order to, this was part of the old magic. This was a huge magic trick, but they had to create something very magnificent to associate with the huge lie they were propagating.
Now I have to wonder so much more about the St. Louis Bridge, right? St. Louis has this crazy. I just think of the bridge when I think of St. Louis at this point, and I wonder how old it is and why it's so weird, because it's supposed to be one of the weirdest, designs, right?
Definitely. But yeah, it's I will be talking about it later on, but this is very interesting and very important. So before the eagle was the national symbol of the USA, this was the snake.
Yep, our motto.
Yep, Southern. Yeah, but basically, there's a lot of evidence for this. It shouldn't be like so controversial, but the snake is something that biblically invokes the idea of the deceiver in the garden, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this was the symbol of the old world tribes. I have a depiction of a snake coiling up all over. Yeah, here you go. The American rattlesnake. So, Britons within the Yankee plains, mind how you march and trench. The serpent in the conqueror's reigns, as well as in the French.
Ah, that's nice.
Yeah.
Now,
these are the 13 colonies, guys.
Wow.
And the snake is all encompassing them. So this used to be a good symbol, and they turned this into a bad symbol in all sorts of different ways. But how
instance,
the Bible
never says it's a devil, right?
It says wise as a serpent, right? Wise as a serpent.
Never says it's the devil. That's an important thing for Christians to remember.
Just for a moment, if we can go back to that, that image of the snake, Nathan, with regards to the whole crater and stuff like that concept, and what that crop circle was telling me, it's like if I look at that snake and it's almost like it's saying two worlds next to each other, and it almost looks exactly like the intersecting craters and everything. Is where I see it, it's almost like saying this is your world, your reality.
There's a metaphysical truth in it, yes.
Right.
If we tie the snake in, just rapid fire for a bunch of things, Jormungandr, the snake that holds the the water's back.
Mhm.
And then we have the idea of the serpent house. So the snake being the first sigil of America is an
Well,
idea
yeah.
of regeneration.
Right? Can you,
Yeah.
Mike?
Oh,
Mike, can
yeah,
you,
it is
Something
true.
new.
Mike, can you
What-
show the picture of the flag? I'm showing the Gadsden flag. This is the first United States flag.
Yeah, and I don't think
Oh.
"Don't Tread on Me" is the real meaning.
Well, I mean, let's show them about
No.
flat Earth, but like, notice how it's got the spirals and also the colors. You know, I always thought it's interesting what red, white, and blue, considering that the original colors of the flag match the Tartarian colors, right? They were,
Mhm.
you know,
And
and
the-
then this is the first thing before that, right? Before there was the Gadsden flag, this was the flyer you would have seen if you were told, I want to quit. I want to be part of this new, I want to leave the colony empire. I want to do my own thing. It's a join or die. And I had cut up pieces of the snake, and they
Wow.
represented the pieces as the different parts of the colonies.
And
Yeah.
also, with that snake, you notice that Florida's not there.
No,
Florida was staunchly Mexican.
Yeah,
Well,
Florida
French-
was Mexican,
French
and
too.
when you
It
see
was
the
French.
Floridians, they carry the feathers in the on their heads as well as the Tartarians did, as the native
Well,
Indians
you got to
did.
think
and-
about
yeah.
Ponce de Leon. Ponce de Leon was looking in Florida, trying to find the Fountain of Youth to stay
And
immortal.
he never ever would, because Florida used to have mountains.
Huh.
Mhm.
But also, if you think about, so I want to go back. Really, the last thing I want to show is this picture from St. Louis, Missouri, because we were talking about that a second ago. And this is the symbol I think of, and I think most people who've been there think of, is the gateway arch to the west. The gateway to the west, they
arch.
call it. And this thing, man, this is this huge. Look how big these towers are, right?
Wow.
Look how big the arch is, and it's this crazy thing. It doesn't make any sense. It's just an art thing, supposedly. Unless there's some sort of a technological Stargate-like logic to this thing. I mean, it
That could
seems
very
like
well be.
look at the water around it, right? It makes, look at this picture where you see as above, you see so below. Isn't that just so coincidental? But you get this whole idea of a portal.
That's
So-
very interesting.
And this
But
is
yeah, I
where
also
the
wanted
Mormons-
to mention quickly that the very word America
Mhm.
comes not from Amerigo Vespucci,
Who's
but
that?
from it comes from Amaruca, which means the plumed serpent in an old Mexican language.
Wow.
So it is a plumed serpent, so a feathered serpent, and the feathers again is symbolic of Saturn again. It's
And
the
plumed.
eagle wings, plumed.
Oh no, my dogs are going nuts.
oh yeah.
It's all the talk of serpents. You're scaring his dogs.
Oh wait, sorry. Where did I go?
Well, did you say plumed or bloom? I'm sorry. Can you?
Plumed. Plumed.
Plumed. Okay.
But yeah, look at this. This is a pagoda in France, and it has the Tartarian or Chinese dragon on it.
We need to let go of the idea that we're just copying for art this Oriental aesthetic. There's something more that we're orienting around than just aesthetic. There's something, and there's some reason why the Jesuits built so much in that aesthetic. You know,
this is like Illumination Castle, and they just throw these up as like, it's very weird. I have some more on that as well. But look at this. This is a huge unknown temple, I feel, and I don't know if this is intentional or if it's burning, but I feel as if this is intentional.
this looks like the temple Anakin Skywalker walked out of when all the Jedi kids.
But yeah, look, like the balcony itself is larger than a normal building down here. It's so crazy, and the pillars here, yeah, you can fit in families within these pillars. No one could walk up these steps. Like, it's so crazy. And what's going on here as well? Is the city on fire, or is this like a steam temple?
But who are those people? Yeah, okay, there you go. What are they carrying there? Are they looting? Are they looting everything?
Yeah,
they
it seems
make
like that. They're
pillars.
taking a pillar here. As you can see, as Romans taking everything from Egypt, they, carried supposedly pyramids from Egypt to Rome on boats and barges. So this could represent the same thing, the Phoenicians taking all the antiquities. I mean, like, the city looks smashed anyway, so maybe you just...
Yeah.
It could be like, okay, nature smashed it, and then people just came in and took whatever they found, right?
I'm back. Is this the sacking of Jerusalem?
Oh yeah, that might be it. Let's see.
I remember this from, I think, December.
What's this? Wait. Let's read this real quick. Dona Euro.
Oh,
Yeah, the Chaldeans.
Yeah, I saw the Chaldeans and I had to know what was going on. What's this? Infiltration of the father Tranfert?
Insultans. It says insultans here.
Insultans. Okay. And then
Something.
Chaldeus ad or. So after.
But these columnas is referring to these here. So something about definitely taking Chaldean columns, right?
Yeah, so
after
the blasphemy was removed.
Mm-hmm. So this is Chaldean, supposedly, perhaps.
But yeah, I remember this this text. I think I still have it.
This is from the same text, I think, and this is like the idea, like, if you guys could ever envision like why you would build this huge structure, not having it enclosed and just in the middle of nowhere, or not in the middle of nowhere, but out in the open, right? So
look at these men without their bases, on the Yakman Boaz side of this building.
Oh yeah, it looks like they've been Claude the Impaled.
They've been, yeah, you've got that. It reminds me of that movie, either iRobot or AI. The artificial intelligence. You got these like halfway done humanoids, and also, you're saying Chaldeans. Have you read that book, the Book of Habakkuk?
I know of it, never read it. Tell us.
Like, it says, like, for behold, I am raising up the Chaldeans, that fierce and impetuous people who march throughout the earth to seize dwelling places which are not theirs. And it's all about, like, they have the power of leopards and the eyes of eagles, and they've got all the technology that are the best parts of technology of all the different animals, and then together they're one conglomeration of all of those magical elements in one technology. And the Chaldeans, they're the ones who can tell the weather. They can do the star reading. And a lot of them still to this day, actually. I mean, it seems like the families are associated to, some extent with the people who control the world need to know the weather,
Yeah.
They'd be fools if they didn't.
I like your star, whatever that snowflakey front, this flower of life looking thing there. This is, too interesting of a labyrinth. When he points to that sun in the center of this.
This is in Rome. And you can see Rome is smashed here behind. So it's post-mud flood Rome. This is probably one of the hillside palaces that survived the flooding. It's, cloudy to shitty. So perhaps from the Claudian family? Could be. But, this is Judea, from the Hofstadt, so the capital city of Siam, which is Thailand, right? And look at the level of towers here, absolutely huge. If you look from the base, huge pagodas, and like in parks, looks like very modern, but at the same time still very ancient.
And it's got that very manufacturing factory.
Starforts you got there.
It is actually a very subtle Starfort, Mike.
This right there, this shows the main tenet of that part of the world. They were unmatched in that time as far as irrigation and water structuring.
Yeah, and the Western world agrees. This guy, John Struess, he made the book about voyages in Tartary and Persia and Russia, and he wrote that Siam, not only that Alexander the Great was not from Macedonia, but was from Siam, and that Siam was the richest nation in the known universe. So these were the rich guys.
Do you think there's a correlation between cyan and turquoise? Like, you've heard this, right? A, the color cyan. B, that
Oh,
the
yeah,
later
not-
cyan had minerals content that was like these magic stones that they used.
Definitely could be something there. But I wanted to hear you if you guys think this is like a water fountain or something else. Because to me, at first, it looked like an inverted stool or something. But
That held something above it, and that something is gone.
okay, yeah. You might
I
be
can
right. Like a
imagine there
big
also
ball or
being-
something. Oh yeah, like a
I
large
can imagine there
ball.
being. I can imagine there being water underneath in the flat plane of that, and above that being something, yeah, like a spheroid or something.
But yeah, I thought it was something of a device at least. But yeah.
Mhm.
This I also wanted to show you. This is like, oh, I can't remember where it is, but it's a woodcut of a German city or Italian city, I think. But here around the city, there are something called Mundatsstein, and they're like large, extremely large, in fact.
Kubricki.
Look, and like they're very large, guys. They're like compared to the trees around them and churches, and they're
Looks
like
monolith.
giant monoliths, and I've never seen anything like it before. So this was very interesting. I wanted to show this and get people's attention on that. It could be like old,
Zoom
pyramid. Out. Could it be like pyramids? Could these be arcs, just cubic in shape?
Zoom out a tiny bit. The resolution is that's perfect.
I'm a sucker for monoliths.
Yeah. So very Wissenburgum.
Gryffindor.
Or Wissenburgen, or maybe this is a double S. I can't remember the
Weissenberg.
Jorgen. It sounds like a
Mike knows this stuff. Also, hello, Stellium.
Oh, I'm glad you made it.
We have both mics with us now. Hi, Stellium.
The mic continuum is expanding.
Good evening.
Proportions.
Ever extending and mic-defying everybody.
Truly bog-minding. Stellium, you missed an interesting bit. We just talked about bog.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I recognize one of the pictures about 5 or 6 back that Victor showed, that it's actually the Campidoglio. That's it right there. That one. That's in Rome. It's still there to this day.
It still has this pattern?
Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. Hold on, let me just put a link in to the chat, and then whoever's showing their screen can show it.
Yeah, it's me sharing. Okay. You'll let me know, right? Okay.
Now we're getting into some really this is some of that War of Northern Aggression looking technology. Those submarines and boat stuff too. Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, the center has a big bronze statue of a guy on a horse.
I know this place. That is nice.
So arabesque.
That's pretty cool.
There's that 12-pointed star. This seems like something out of the Baha'i. They do a lot of stuff with this, but it looks like a arabesque that you'd see in Islam.
The oldest tree in Rome is just there to the left. It's supposed to be, legend says it's 2,000 years old.
So wait, Mike, you were just showing a picture of boats that were, how old is that picture? Because it looks, like it couldn't be older than 100 years, like the stuff is just like what they had so recently. When's it supposed to have been?
You're asking me, sorry?
Oh, sorry, I meant Victor. My gosh. My bad.
Oh, what picture is this?
That one there, yeah. When's this picture supposed to be from?
This is late 1800s.
Okay.
So yeah, this is like a steam, I think. Oh, sorry, it might not be a steam, but it is Prussian or Russian technology, this one. And I have a few other examples of these circular vessels that were used for war.
They're saying the Novgorod?
The Novgorod, yeah. You can see here the Novgorod.
The new city?
Yeah, there is a city called Novgorod, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it may be connected with that, but I was interested in showing you these steam cars. and basically there's not a lot known about, as far as I'm concerned, steam carriages before electric cars, and how far and wide and spread they were, because I feel this could very well stretch into pre-1812 times, and they may have been, a lot of them may have been completely mud covered, right? Or easily disassembled by catastrophes. So I feel like maybe this steam car, that could have been a steam car era as well, that could have been longer than we know, where people drove around in steam carriages. It's just an idea.
I feel like I remember an era of steam. So to hear that is strange to me. I like that they're using the turning wheel instead of anything else.
This is compressed air. And that technology seemed to be everywhere. You had New York Underground with pneumatic monorails, and also in London you had it, and I think in Madrid and Barcelona, and yeah, it's basically weird that they well, we know why, but they got rid of that to replace it with centralized electrical systems that they could squeeze money out of.
Have you seen the movie Steam Boy?
I love that movie.
Remember how nobody could compress steam for enough energy to do anything? And they finally did it in one container, and it powered the entire capsule, and it froze the countryside that this castle floated over.
It's
crazy.
Not familiar with the show, I feel.
It's a beautiful anime.
This picture is a bit too much for the computer to take, so I might not use it for too long. It's a high resolution, but yeah, you can see sea life, antiquity, and yeah, just a lot of stuff.
Wow, they get into the inner workings of the ear in that.
Yeah,
that's
crazy.
But
I cannot show it for too long because it takes too much CPU. But these are perhaps some Celtic monuments, and they seem to be geomancy or geomantic in their efficacy. I don't know if I'm right about that, but
can you scroll to the top so we can see the text?
Basically describing them, large oval rocks, so which represent the base of a pyramid. Huh?
Yeah, 6 immense. What is piedras? Ranging a certain distance and parallel. Roches gigantesques.
Mm-hmm. And in parallel lines, yeah, but and look how large they are. So
they describe them, but they say nothing as to the purpose.
Exactly. This is a large pagoda in Tartary, and not to mention like all the intricacy of the way it's. I feel if you remember back to Andreas's large Valencian giant, could this be like a huge old world replica of that? Large giant, because we see Asia full of giant statues carved into the mountains and stuff like that, and giant Buddhas and stuff like that. And this looked like a Moorish Turkish king wearing like a papal tiara or a Hindu hat.
Yeah, it's Krishna blue though, right?
It's Krishna blue though. And it also has the yellow garment, and in Freemasonry they talk about the celestial blue with the yellow, which is basically the color combination of the high priest, which represents the blue flame of God, which is like in the middle of a flame you have that blue part that is like the inner part of God, according to them, in that sense. So this is a huge antiquity device. You can see it here again. La Gran Pagoda, Siringam. It's pretty neat. Oh, don't tell me there's
Beautiful
more.
stuff.
Oh, this is so cool though, because have you seen like knobs on the top of buildings, right? They in the roofs of churches. They have knobs, right? Like these protrusions coming out. Okay, before I say anything, have anyone got any clue what they are for?
Yes.
Okay, Nathan, you know?
Just tell it. Tell it. It's fucking
Okay,
awesome.
sorry. Okay, these are for ventilation. And you can see it here. So air for all sorts of purposes, I guess. But these took in air. Products of combustion being carried out until... Let's see. So also combustion and gas. No bad air escaping above the level of the low fireplace. Could also be to, you know, if they had fires indoors, these would filter out the smoke as they smoky chimneys being drawn into their halls and passages from these to their individual apartments, where channels for the supply of fresh air.
In the previous page, it was describing soporific rooms. And that's soporific is inducing or tending to induce sleep, making one drowsy.
Huh. Wow.
So, have you ever?
Oh, no. Sorry, I misread. The atmosphere too generally acquires a soporific character. Okay.
They're talking about not dying when you have a fire in a second or third story. So you have this to ventilate the space, and it's easily maintainable. It's why in some pictures you can see the buildings themselves appear to be smoking or have smoke. They also use steam, but this is one of the devices. Just an early attempt at a different style of the hell is it called? Stratification and induction.
Yeah. But I just it's just very interesting because we see these a lot, and a lot of people have lots of different ideas about them. But it's just it's pretty simple, really. This one, at least. But again, look at we talk about this a lot, but how something very subtle, or how the inner parts of all these things that we think of as arts or art pieces on buildings are, you know, have a purpose, functionality, and not only aesthetics. So it's a beautiful blend of functionality and aesthetics at the same time. What is aesthetics even to these people? What are aesthetics to us? But
yes, and we've forgotten what they were for, so now they're just pretty baubles on the end of a building.
It seems as though nothing was treated trivially.
But guys, haven't you, if you walked around in the Mediterranean, right, by the coastline, you will see something akin to this, like many places. And this is the result of great earthquakes in the past. And that is just pretty much what I think of as like the resets as well, because the liquefaction part of the earthquake accounts so well for some of the things we find today, being liquefaction and cities sinking and stuff like that. But yeah, this is one of the famous earthquakes in Lisbon. There was 2 in the 1600s, pretty close to one another, and both of them completely decimated Lisbon.
I am out of time, guys. I'm going to miss you, but I will say, Victor, if you're showing the earthquake damage and the liquefaction damage, Andreas said he would fix the audio on that thing. I'm going to send you those books. You're going to love it.
Okay, I will, and I can't wait to see the thing about the next chat about volcanoes. I know it's up on Mike's channel, but I'm waiting. I always wait for the Certus release. Sorry.
Oh
Yeah, it's gonna be good. Also, Brittany. Too bad she wasn't able to make it tonight, but there's all the stuff that we know. Like I feel like things she knows way more about when it comes to the volcanoes. We got some thoughts. And we're learning a lot, but she's already so far ahead on this stuff that we're kind of just trying to catch up so that we can start presenting the level of submarine volcano mining technology that's clearly historical, not just futuristic. But
okay, well, Nathan, have a good one then.
Yes, indeed. Miss you guys.
Have a couple of good ones if you can.
Bye.
Later, bro.
Yeah, I'm gonna get
And then
back.
I'll just perhaps show a few more, because this is Moscow in early 1800s, start 1900s, and the inner part of the Kremlin were all like the exposition buildings, endowed with attachments, or perhaps even part of the building itself that could light up somehow. We haven't figured out exactly how some of this works, but it's very, very interesting. Look how also you have one tower here that also did it. It doesn't seem like all of the towers were able to do so. Some were inactive, some were active.
I guess the electricity bills were a lot lower back then.
And not all of it is electricity. It could be a combination of electric, gas light, and stuff like that. But it is indeed wonderful. And here's city lights in the early 1800s, and all the towers are lit up, and some in different colors, both green and red and blue and yellow, as you can see here as well. It's just crazy how Moscow was this huge illumination city, and I think that most
my gosh, look at that green light.
Yeah.
What is up with that? So ominous and creepy.
Also the red here.
Emerald City going on there in Jerusalem.
Yeah,
I mean
it
Moscow. I mean whatever we call it now.
Jerusalem, as Fomenko would have us believe, the Kremlin matches the dimensions of Jerusalem mentioned in the Bible. But then also, if you look at the German city Mannheim, as Mike Starfort showed me, it is called New Jerusalem. Right, Mike? Mike, you may be muted. Or you may not be here. Okay.
Well, I hear
I'm
you.
looking up that image real quick.
Okay, cool. This is more of Moscow, and this is Antiquitech. Look at that. And this looks exactly what was on the side of the Eiffel Tower that got taken down. These arches that were all the way around the Eiffel Tower, and they were able to light up as well. Yeah, this is a signal fort. Also a signal fort. And a huge lighthouse.
All right, got it.
Awesome. I'm on your screen now. Yeah, that one. And if you can see on the top of the image, it says Novo Jerusalem, or New Jerusalem. Isn't that weird? It's in Germany.
Isn't that
Mannheim.
weird, guys? It almost backs up and corroborates everything you have a hard time with.
That's Mannheim in Germany.
Look at the bottom, Mike, and you can see a huge building that could perhaps mimic the Temple of Solomon. If you look at the bottom, at the city view, at the bottom of that image, there is the view of the city, and you can see that huge building over there that could perhaps mimic the Temple of Solomon.
Intense.
But yeah, it is very interesting nonetheless. We could go back perhaps to some of the last images I have, and then I will also be.
So it's not just a design of a guy with a big head and glasses?
No, definitely not. But But yeah, Lee, here you see more of the cloud making.
Yep.
And could these be ground-based cloud makers? Is this geoengineering in the past? Oh, I love this one. UAP showed this one. But this is basically original Harold, son of David. Could this be Harley Davidson in the past? Who knows?
I mean,
Is this a
that's
speed
really brutal
motorcycle?
right there. That's literally a motorcycle. Come on.
Yeah.
You've read Connecticut Kid in King Arthur's Court, I assume, where he has a motorcycle back in the old days. He actually makes a bike and everything. I have it back in the old days.
Doesn't He-Man also drive around a bike at some point?
I don't recall the bike part. I believe it. I know he has a great giant cat. Green
Hmm.
tiger.
An
That might
attack
be-
track. It was called an attack track. It was
Oh, yeah.
more of a part of the toy line rather than the cartoon series. But I do believe it made an appearance at one point, or at least a variation of it.
Lee the expert. And
For me, the expert, He-Man.
That's excellent. I didn't know that. But yeah, here more of these machines that they erect for all sorts of purposes. That is, for the most part, undisclosed. But yeah, it's just beautiful, and more of the same. And Antiquitech here, and artificial mountains and machines,
clouds.
as they call them.
Stone
Yeah,
clouds.
or stone cloud. Yeah, stone clouds.
I feel like we've hit about 2 hours in here, and I want to give the audiences what they want, which is they want us to keep these tight. So, is there anything else you want to show before we finish this?
There
Or
was
any questions?
there was like a one thing I really wanted, and I have been wanting to
Okay.
share for a long time, and it's like a
We're gonna
crazy.
drop the bomb on people now.
It is a crazy image, and I hope that I still have it out here on the front page. I might have moved it into one of the folders. I have to make sure that I did that. Because it is something that I've been meaning to show for. Yeah, and now I can find it, of course. That's pretty
That's
typical.
maybe we're supposed to
Yeah.
save it for next time. I mean, I'll give you a chance, but otherwise, also Mike Wilkerson, Stellium, thank you so much for joining us, and I'll have you on very soon again because we're gonna do something about volcanoes with Brittany. So stay tuned for that. I'll have to like. send
Oh,
you-
it is here.
Oh yeah, great.
Yeah, pleasure to be back, guys. I'm going to hit the road.
Okay, Stellium.
Catch
Thank
you
you
later.
for stepping by. Yeah.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Well,
So-
now he's gonna get his mind blown because he's gonna see this just after he got cut off. But this is
I can't remember whether this is St. Petersburg, Kiev, or Moscow. Somebody may have to help me with that one. But this is a Russian or Tartarian city, and I'll start from the bottom. It has a huge bowl, like very large bowl, like extremely large bowl. But it could be a perspective thing. But it shows a very high level of civilization. Romano-Greco temples and arches, illumination devices, and again, huge buildings. But it has one thing that is extremely crazy, which is this.
oh my gosh. There you've got the double. You got a triple though because you've got several. You got several pillars and you got another clock in between that clock. Am I wrong? Or was that? It looks like there's a secondary clock.
I'm not quite sure, to be honest, but it reminded me of that huge Antiquitech tower we talked about in Benidorm, where you had like the V in here, right? But here you have like a Vesica Pisces or an eye, and it is a clock. And I feel like this is like two towers and like Sauron and a Saturnian clock tower or something.
Is that a
It's
submarine.
Or
Like
an
it looks like
astrolabe.
there's like a
Oh, yeah.
submarine boat there that goes under.
Is there a castle boat? Yeah.
castle boat at least, and then you got a lighthouse-looking thing with a windmill, whatever you call that, like a.
And the flag here.
That's just so much bigger. Look at the castle to the left of it. That is just like twice as tall as that castle.
And the castle looked like mud flooded.
Yeah, totally.
It's just so much going on in this pic. And look at these here, these residences, and like large ships as well. It's just an amazing picture. And I found this as a single image on an art archive. So guys, let me really please go to the archives and do what I do and be very bored and shuffle around images, and sometimes you'll hit gold such as this. And
when you do, please put them on the Foundry so it's easier for everyone else to find them that you love.
And I want to ask you, is this clock on fire or something? Or is it like lighting up?
Yeah, it's got that kind of metallic illuminance kind of going around it. I don't know, maybe it's on fire. Or other than that, it could just be
like some weird symbols also on it.
You know, the Strasbourg clock, right? It was the most important symbol of Strasbourg. It was this giant zodiac clock and then there was the plague of Strasbourg.
I had my eyes on it a few months ago when I was in Alsace, Strasbourg, and they are right now changing the astronomical clock right now. So they have like this outer layer outside. You cannot see it right now. It's hidden away while they're doing putting their filthy hands on it.
Can you imagine? Wow. Of course. And what a weird coincidence right now when we want to look at it because we're looking at it with this lens. That's when you can't see it.
Yeah.
But, Strasbourg was on fire. So it kind of could be at this. It's another example of that. Plagues and fires abound.
Yeah. But yeah, guys, this was basically it for
this beautiful time. I think we did an amazing thing here, guys. Thanks for getting a part of this.
No worries. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I always like your patience with me. Thank you guys so much. And
you've got riveting information. And there's a lot of stuff that we can bounce off this week and come up with. That's part of why we do this. And everybody, please check out TerrariaNova.com. Go to the Foundry. Go to the Discord. Get involved. Talk to us. Check out some of the other guys' channels. Watch Stellium7's videos. Check out Lee's Cloud videos. I mean, they're like pretty much
therapy.
Cloud therapy. They're pretty much cloud therapy. iCloud therapy videos. So make sure you see that. And also, come talk to us directly. If you're interested in any of this stuff, just come talk to us. Yeah. You don't have to yell at us in comments. You can ask us questions. We'll answer them.
We are approachable, and we're around, basically.
Yeah. All right. I love you all. God bless.
All right. Catch you guys later.
Thank you for hosting, Mike, as always. Thank you for listening.
Mike.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.